You are listening to a special edition of the Colts Report with Sam Frick of ANEC Sports and Tipton Tribune and Elwood Call Leader Sports Editor Michelle Garmon. Their reaction to the Colts' 27-20 loss in Pittsburgh, only on the Central Indiana Sports Report. Welcome back, Colts fans, to the Central Indiana Sports Report for a special edition of the Colts Report with Sam Frick. Sam's here to react to the Colts' 27-20 loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. A 7-point loss that really wasn't that close, Sam, in the end. But the way I would summarize it is, for the first time this year, the Colts got punched in the mouth and they did not react very well to it. But I don't think there's any reason to panic. Sam?
I don't think so, because even in a loss where I would say this is easily our worst loss of the year against Pittsburgh, we should have lost by about 20 points in that game. I will give the Colts some credit. They started the game pretty darn well in the first quarter, and then the end of the game went a lot better than I expected. They only lost by 7 because the Colts did show some fight in the game, and especially with a turnover there towards the end of the game, where I thought the Steelers were going to ice the game at 27-10 or whatever it was at the time, and the Colts did get some stops and whatnot, and then did score a little bit. I thought the Colts did show some fight, but I think the big thing we look back in this game, 6 turnovers in this game. That's just way too many turnovers against the Pittsburgh Steelers, against any team other than the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think when we summarize this game, Greg, I think the JT Watt stripped sack and fumble recovery, that was to me the play of the game, and it pretty much the Colts kind of snowballed from there. They just never recovered from that play.
No question. It was a couple of Hall of Famers that did end the Colts, and that's what we said coming into the game, that TJ Watt and Cameron Hayward hadn't been playing like Hall of Famers of late, and he was right, but they are Hall of Famers for a reason. They both came to play today and made all the difference in the world, and Aaron Rodgers looked pretty good, but the bottom line, Sam, is it's really the first time they've been kind of whipped.
And I think there's 2 things that kind of factored in favor of Pittsburgh. Number one, if you remember, they got embarrassed on Sunday Night Football against the Green Bay Packers. Obviously, that's a wake-up call there. Number 2, they knew they were going to be playing the Indianapolis Colts to begin with. That record they had coming in at 7-1, they knew there was going to be extra motivation against the Colts, knowing they had to play better against one of the best teams in the NFL. And I think some of that was Pittsburgh knows that they can't keep falling behind and losing games, because they know right now the Steelers are kind of in a race for those last wildcard spots right now if they don't get the AFC North division. So that right now for Pittsburgh, they can't lose that AFC North division. So if I'm a Colts fan, this is how I look at it. Colts fans, don't panic, just settle down. It was one really sloppy game. Really should have lost by more than 7 points. You didn't play your best in the middle stretch of the game. You showed some good in the early game. You showed some good in the end. Let's transition to the game in Germany. Let's play better against Atlanta, and let's play cleaner football.
Sam, here's the way I look at it. If you believe in multiple universes, in every universe, the Colts lose in Pittsburgh every time. That's just the way that it works. So if you go into Pittsburgh and win, then you have to start having a conversation about how good is this team. And I think, as we've been saying for a while, they're good. They're just not quite good enough to be the kind of team that wins a game in Pittsburgh. But they're close. In fact, they outgained Pittsburgh almost twice as many yards. If everything goes well, I think they're the better team than Pittsburgh, and I think that's I thought that was pretty clear.
Yeah, and one last thing before we turn into Michelle here to speak her thoughts here. I think the big thing was Pittsburgh didn't have the ball as much as the Colts too, which is part of the reason that we outgained them as much as we did. But at the end of the day, it does show that when we do play clean football, we are still a pretty explosive football team, even against Hall of Fame players on the defense side of the football. So it's not the end of the world that we lost to Pittsburgh. To me, I'd rather lose to Pittsburgh now than to lose in the playoffs or lose when it matters the most.
Now we welcome in Michelle Garmon of the Tipton Tribune and Elwood Call Leader with her thoughts on the Colts' 27-20 loss. And Michelle, I kind of said the way I looked at it is if you go into Pittsburgh and win, it's a kind of a bonus. I'm not worried at all about what this says about the Colts. Like Sam mentioned, 6 turnovers. That hasn't really happened. The one thing that does concern me is that the A-plus offensive line that it's been all year was exposed by a couple of Hall of Fame players.
It being must-win for Pittsburgh, their intensity was going to be ramped up after 2 disappointing losses to the Bengals and to the Packers. They really had to come after the Colts, and they did. And I am concerned a little bit with the line only because the Pittsburgh has struggled so much defensively. But
today they saw the best of T.J. Watt and Cameron Hayward, and they haven't been their best all year. Today, those 2 guys were a wrecking crew, and that's the reason that the Colts are leaving with a loss.
I think, though, too, here's the thing. The offensive line's been so good that I think that the Colts thought that they could sometimes single block some of those guys. They're Hall of Famers for a reason, and you can't only single block them.
Yeah, Braden Smith has been almost perfect in pass blocking all year, Michelle, and they tried to have him one-on-one with T.J. Watt, and that was not working.
No, you almost really can't. You have to. I was watching Green Bay some last week, and they would chip, even if it was Tucker Kraft curling on the tight end, he would a forearm shiver a little bit, just enough of a chip to impede Watt, just a hair. But that's all right, because I think the Colts needed a game like this, because now they can go back and they can say, okay, they'll grade out and they'll see what adjustments they need to make. Everything had been going so well for the Colts all season that even when you look on film, it was hard to find weaknesses. So sometimes when that happens, then it's hard to tweak your schemes and things like that.
Right.
But now they have good film to go back and clean up some things and maybe add a few wrinkles. I'm still a little bit concerned with the Colts defense at times. I know they got to Rodgers a couple times early, but I just don't think they're that front seven. I mean,
average at best, no doubt about it. Trent, the defense we've been saying all year, and we talked about this with Daniel Jones, and we talked about this with the defense. Eventually it's going to turn midnight, and they're going to turn into pumpkins, and when they play really good teams. And we saw a little bit of that today when they played a team with a couple of really great players like that. We saw some weaknesses. I think for the first time this year, Shane Steichen was outcoached by Mike Tomlin, but I don't think it's going to happen very often, and I don't know if it would happen again if they played each other, because Steichen's been really good. And once again, Sam, the Colts came out ready to play. So they are 9 for 9 in coming out to play. As you mentioned, that first quarter was pretty good.
And kind of to piggyback what Michelle said, my biggest concern when we were looking ahead to those next few games, I was worried about the Colts having a sense of false hope, if you would, because we did so well at the beginning of the season. I was a little bit worried about the Colts being maybe overestimating what they've done so far. So to have a loss like this, where for the first time they finally look a little sluggish against a team with a couple Hall of Fame defensive linemen like we saw today. So I think from that standpoint, I think it does give us a good sense of evaluation of where we need to be as we get into the harder part of the schedule, where we start playing into those tougher teams. We start playing those quality teams that are looking at playoffs, if you would. And then also from a managerial standpoint, it's a good opportunity to evaluate where they need to add at this point, because it does show you that when the Colts offense is sluggish, our defense gets exposed way more. And when our offensive line gets exposed, Daniel Jones gets exposed. And when Daniel Jones gets exposed, everything else gets exposed, right? So really for the first time all year, it felt like the offensive line didn't play at the level it normally would play, partly because of what the Steelers did so well. Yes, Steichen got outcoached by Mike Tomlin, but it is Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin in the regular season is really good as a head coach, right?
Yes,
Even though I think he's a little overrated, he is still a good head coach. But I also think at the same time is if we don't take care of the football well, we don't have the horses up front to keep up with these other teams. So it's a good learning process for the Indianapolis Colts to figure out how to improve, where to make those minor adjustments, and then from a long-term standpoint, how to take the Colts over the top in terms of playoff contention.
The Colts, they needed a game like this. Now they're going to travel across the pond and play the Falcons. So Falcons came close to getting a win today, making it close. They have a quarterback that's a deep ball threat. So
they're the most unpredictable team in the NFL.
I'm just saying they do have, and they have a good running back.
Yes, they do.
It'll be interesting for the Colts.
Maybe the best in the
league. Get a
league.
bye. And then I think right after the bye, they have to go to Kansas City. And it will be it's going to be another needing to win team in the Chiefs. So the Colts really need to bounce back, have a good week when they go overseas, get rested up, and then use that bye to really prepare for that second half of the season. And because it's going to be tough. The Titans challenged the Chargers today. Texans look good a little bit today. So the Colts just have to learn from their mistakes today, put it behind them, and move forward.
Sam, Michelle talked a little bit about the upcoming schedule and the standings a little bit. Let's talk about that and what's going on outside of the Colts loss today, and big loss for Houston. Unfortunately, the Jaguars escaped the Raiders in overtime. But you still have to like the Colts' position at 6-2, and as long as they play well, I'm sure they'll beat the Falcons. And then we'll see going into Kansas City being 7-2. I say I'm sure they'll beat the Falcons. Like I said, some days the Falcons are the best team in the NFL, and the next week they're the worst. So it's hard to say which Falcons team we're going to get. Of course, reminder that we will be previewing that game on Friday, and we'll have our Colts report on Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening. Sam, your thoughts on where they stand at the halfway point of the season?
Like I said, at 7-2, with the schedule they faced up to this point, this is a really good situation for the Indianapolis Colts, because when we did our preseason predictions, I was far less optimistic about the second half of the schedule. So Michelle hit in the nail there. We are going to get some tough games coming up. So that means we got to take advantage of the game against Atlanta over in Germany coming up on Sunday, which is a 9:30 a.m. game, by the way, for those who don't know, on NFL Network.
Love
so
it.
It's going to be an early game for us viewers, but the Colts are going to have to embrace that opportunity against the Atlanta Falcons. You know, you look at the AFC right now, the Colts still right there in the top of the AFC race with them in New England. Denver's at 7-2, I believe, as well. So they have done a pretty good job of late. Chiefs not looking so hot. They did struggle a little bit against Buffalo, who's not too far behind us as well. So things are tightening up a little bit, but like I said, in terms of the AFC seeding, but in terms of playoffs, the Colts have to feel really good right now. But they got to make sure they put that loss behind them against the Pittsburgh Steelers, focus on the Atlanta Falcons, so that when we get to bye week, they're getting ready for the Kansas City Chiefs.
And as of right this very moment, in the middle of Sunday Night Football, in which the Seahawks are destroying Washington, the Colts are 7-2. They are the number one seed in the playoff race because of the better conference record at 6-1. Then the Patriots and the Broncos, who they are tied with at 7-2. Behind that in the standings, Pittsburgh is the other division leader at 5-3, but Buffalo is the one we're all probably going to be keeping our eye on at 6-2. The Chargers are 6-3. The Jaguars are 5-3. The Chiefs are 5-4 on the outside looking in as of right now, but very much alive. The Ravens are 3-5 and maybe still alive, but not sure. And the Texans are 3-5, but their defense is too good to completely count them out.
They look like they're starting to play better than what they were at the beginning of the year. I'll tell you, you said eyes on Buffalo. You cannot take your eyes off New England. They have a very winnable. They have the easiest schedule of all of these teams, based on how poorly they kind of did last year. So they didn't get a tough schedule.
We'll see next week when they go to Tampa Bay just how good they are.
Yeah, we will. But like I said, that AFC schedule kind of favors them because they do. The rematch with Buffalo will be in New England. So, and I know Buffalo can go anywhere and win, but if that's a big game, New England fans they'll show out. It
I
will
still
be
don't
interesting.
believe in the Patriots.
Well, I
Still don't
believe
believe in the Patriots.
I believe in Mike Vrabel. I think he's a
Yeah,
very good coach.
he's good. They're a year early. They're still very young and inexperienced.
Michelle does have a point. Like, New England has looked much better this year, and they took advantage of a lighter schedule. But again, nobody expected the Colts to be in this situation either with Daniel Jones. So I guess that's where we're at right now in the AFC. And the same thing with Tampa Bay a little bit in the NFC. So we'll see how things stack up, and then we'll discuss from there about playoffs and aspirations and whatnot for these teams.
A little worrisome that they are 7-2 and only have a 2-game lead on 8th place in the standings. So that is a little concerning between the Colts, Patriots, Broncos, Steelers, Bills, Chargers, Jaguars, and Chiefs. One of those teams is not going to make it. Final thoughts, and we start with Michelle.
Again, the Colts need to look at this film, learn from it, coaching staff, the players, and then put this game behind and just go forward. Everybody has a bad game. I don't care who you are. You have a bad game. Sometimes you're able to pull it out, and sometimes you're not. And the Colts weren't able to do that because Pittsburgh was really intense on that. But that's something the Colts are going to need to also be aware of as they move forward, because they are going to have some games where the opponent is in a must-win situation. So they're going to come out and they're going to give the Colts their best. So the Colts just have to make sure that they're focused for 4 full quarters.
Yeah, to go with Michelle's point, I think it's reset time for the Colts. Just calm down, relax. It's a long season still. And think of it like Halloween, right? Halloween, it's trick or treat, it's spooky season, right? Today was a scare for the Colts. The Steelers got the Colts fans a little nervous from that loss. Get back to the swing of things. Get back to what got you going. It's that 7-1 start. It's a loss. It's a setback of a long journey ahead, but it's not the end of the world. The Colts are still having a great season. They're still in the thick of things in the AFC. Just time to reset. Get ready for that long ride to Germany and get that win against Atlanta, and I think we'll be good.
They didn't react well to getting punched in the face for the first time this season, and that's not a concern unless it continues to happen. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your time. Central Indiana Sports Report is brought to you by TG Media. And I love Susie.